Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this video, we dive into a topic we've never covered before. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. You can also follow the Instagram page as well. So let's get into it. Welcome to the islands of Samoa, located 5,000 miles from the United States in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The beautiful country is made up of 12 small islands with a combined population of 218,000. Yes, the entire country is smaller than San Bernardino. And because of how secluded they are, building an economy has always been a struggle. From the start, their main industry was exporting tuna, which they were once the largest exporter in the world. However, this alone can only employ so many people, so many Samoans began leaving in the 1950s. The vast majority went to New Zealand or Australia, but many went to America as well. Due to Samoa being an American territory, many residents were offered citizenship through military jobs. So in 1951, the first 1,000 Samoans arrived in the harbor area of LA. This includes San Pedro, Carson, Wilmington, and most importantly, the city of Long Beach. And throughout the 1950s and 60s, more and more Samoans settled all over the state of California. But due to their economic status, many ended up in the roughest neighborhoods in the state, one of which being the west side of Long Beach, and that's where this story begins. The west side of Long Beach is anything west of the LA River. The neighborhood stretches 28 blocks north to south and is honestly a beautiful place to live. And that's exactly what the Samoan community expected, a peaceful neighborhood by the water. But shortly after settling in, they realized that the area was no walk in the park. In the 50s and 60s, the area was rough, but not in the way we consider today. Gangs were not yet in the picture, but the groundwork for their formation was being laid. So let me explain how it all started. Teenagers from the west side either went to Cabrillo or Long Beach Poly, and over the years, these two schools got worse and worse. As many of us know, Samoans are usually the biggest people at school, so nobody messes with them. But in this case, they were severely outnumbered by the other communities. So throughout the 1960s, they were constantly tested at school. All of this while the west side of Long Beach was developing its first gangs. First, you had the infamous Rolling 80s, located west of Santa Fe. Their main territory is the giant Springdale West Apartments. Then east of Santa Fe, you have the infamous Longo 13, who are the most feared in Long Beach. So for every Samoan, there were at least 5 Longos and 3 Rolling 80s. And because of this, they grouped together and formed the Sons of Samoa, also known as SOS. Their territory is located south of Spring Street, right next to both of their rivals. SOS was more of a tight-knit family than the other two sections, so they made up for their lack of size with the way they moved in unison. And by 1980, the west side of Long Beach was a triangle of violence. The Rolling 80s versus Longo 13 versus the Sons of Samoa. This made for a horrible environment, far from what the Samoan families had hoped for. And as you would expect, this caused for many families to relocate. But what you wouldn't expect is where they ended up. Welcome to Salt Lake City, Utah. One of the most beautiful cities in America, but also the most boring city in America as well. Well, after California, Utah was the second choice for Samoan immigrants. Okay, enough with that. Let me explain how this happened. In the 1800s, the Mormons conducted missionary trips to the islands of Samoa. There, they built churches and attempted to spread their beliefs. Interestingly enough, a good 20% of Samoans joined the religion. So starting in the 50s and 60s, Utah was the main choice for the Mormon Samoans. The vast majority settled in the southwest suburbs. This includes the boring cities of West Valley and Kearns. These are your typical middle-class suburbs with hardworking blue-collar families. And for decades, that's all that was going on. However, when the Long Beach families began sending their kids to live in Utah, all of that would change. The families assumed that Utah would be a better environment for their sons. In the meantime, it was absolutely true. However, in the 1980s, that would all change. In the 1970s, a new population immigrated to Utah. 550 miles south of Samoa, you have the beautiful island of Tonga. Just like Samoa, the island of Tonga had the Church of Latter-day Saints as well. So because of this, a good portion of Tongans decided to settle in Utah. However, the vast majority ended up in Inglewood, California. They settled in one particular section between Century Boulevard and 104. And just like Long Beach, this area was no walk in the park. So for their own protection, they started TCG, also known as the Tongan CRIPS. From the very start, TCG was rivals with Crenshaw Mafia, Inglewood family, and the Denver Lanes. Because of all this tension, many Tongan families decided to relocate to Salt Lake City. Okay, I hope you see where I'm going with this. The suburbs of Salt Lake City were filled with SOS and TCG members. Back in LA, the two sides did not get along, but they were really too far away to have a serious beef. But now that they were in the same area, the beef was on. March 11th, 1990. It's a freezing cold Friday night and the TCG members throw a party in West Valley. Well, 3 SOS members have just moved to the area and are looking for something to do. Well, after hearing about the party, they decide to show up. 9:30 p.m. The SOS members arrive, knock on the door, and expect a friendly response. However, that's not what occurs. Instead, the TCG members are furious and get in their faces. A scuffle breaks out and the Samoans sprint to their car. They're able to hop in and speed down Volta Avenue. Little do they know the TCG members are relentless and are speeding up to catch up to them. The roads are icy, so it's a horrible idea to drive fast. Regardless, once SOS notices that they're being followed, they have to speed up. Finally, on Highway 154, TCG catches up. So at full force, they ram into the back of the SOS car. This caused the SOS members to slide down the icy freeway at 70 miles per hour. Sadly, the 3 members would not make it. And this right here kicked off a major rivalry between TCG and SOS. The formerly quiet suburbs were now just like Inglewood. The rivalry would go back and forth over the next few years until police finally took them down. But interestingly enough, this major rivalry had serious implications back in LA. It's very complicated to say the least, but here's what we know. The overall Tongan-Samoan tensions got really high all over California, and it involved way more than SOS and TCG. In fact, Long Beach and Orange County had a new set of Tongans known as TFL, also known as Tongans for Life. These guys did not like the Sons of Samoa, and it was only a matter of time before things got serious. November 3rd, 2006. It's a Friday night in Long Beach, and that means Friday Night Lights football. On this special night, Jordan High School faces off with the state champion Long Beach Poly. The rivalry game draws a large crowd of over 4,000 spectators. For most high schools, there's nothing to worry about, but in Long Beach, you never know what can go down. That's because the rolling 80s, Longos, SOS, and TFL can all be there at once. Well, as expected, Poly blows out Jordan 58-0 on their home turf. Well, after the game, 4 SOS members/associates walk down Atlantic Avenue. While walking down, one of the SOS named Jacob SOLIA notices 3 cars creeping behind them. So he nods at his friends and points them towards the creepy cars. And that's when the cars speed up. A TFL member named Nathan Taglioa rolls down his window. He yells, "Where you guys from?" Jacob rolls his eyes and starts walking away. But his friend walks up to the car and throws his 7-Eleven Slurpee into the window. Nathan gets furious, so he yells, "What? Where you from?" One of the members yells SOS, and that would be a bad decision. Jacob knows that this can end badly, so he walks down the opposite way. One of his friends follows him, but his other friend named Sam walks up to the car. And that's when Tau Sisi Matangi makes a wild decision. After doing this, Matangi had a feeling that it would all catch up to him. So on November 8th, he flew to Utah to stay with his family. And because he's a Mormon, he planned on doing a 2-year mission to spread his faith. Well, that would be short-lived because 8 days later, he would be arrested. During the trial, witnesses testified against Matangi and he received 35 years to life. And because of this incident, the rest of the 2000s would be completely divided in LA. But I'm pleased to tell you that this story has a happy ending. The Tongans and Samoans decided to put all their tensions to the side. In fact, they even became each other's biggest allies. According to an SOS member named YG Droopy, many members realized how disappointing this rivalry was. He said they thought about all of the sacrifices their grandparents made to provide a better life for them. In his words, the beef was disrespectful to their ancestors. And little did they know this brought peace all over the state of California. From Sacramento to the Bay Area to Fresno and down to LA, everything was good. But like all things in human life, mistakes can be made. A very mysterious incident would occur on August 29th, 2020. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Southern California. And on this day, a man named Louis Rapina, also known as Luce, is heading up the 405 freeway to Long Beach. Well, while he's heading up the freeway, he allegedly gets into an argument with a man in a white Mercedes S550. And for whatever reason, the man in the Mercedes rolls his window down and makes a wild decision. Bang! The sad incident shut down the 405 freeway for 12 straight hours. In fact, it was backed up all the way to the city of Irvine. Well, after hours of conducting forensics, police still had no idea what had happened. Louis was not affiliated and definitely not in the streets. So because of this, police wrote it off as a random road rage incident. However, one particular person was certain that they knew who did it. This would be a woman named Amanda Young, Luce's girlfriend. After the incident, Amanda allegedly told Luce's brother that she knew who did it. She said it was Cuddy Banks, an SOS rapper from San Jose. But this section of SOS doesn't have any rivals, and why would Cuddy Banks be in Orange County? Because it made no sense, Luce's brother was not buying it. But for months, Amanda stood her ground and was certain that Cuddy Banks had done it. But instead of calling police, she wanted Luce's brother to handle it himself. His name is Isaiah Rupino, but is commonly known as UC ZEEK. And after months of convincing, he finally agrees to go looking for Cuddy Banks. And what he quickly discovered is that Amanda is making it really easy. As NorCal residents know, SoCal people are so clueless to our region. But Amanda was able to find out the two locations that Cuddy Banks could be. First would be the east side of San Jose, and second would be across the water in the small suburb of San Mateo. In San Mateo, there's a neighborhood called Shoreview, which is home to dozens of Samoan families, and this is where Cuddy Banks could often be. So after plotting for months, Amanda and Isaiah finally make the trip. December 19th, 2020. Amanda drives a white Mercedes 300 while Zeke is in the passenger seat looking for Cuddy Banks. They drive around the east side of San Jose, but nobody is outside. Option number 2. Amanda heads up Highway 280 to San Mateo. There they drive around Shoreview looking for Cuddy Banks, but nobody is outside. So they kind of give up and head towards the downtown area. Boom, she spots Cuddy Banks walking into Wells Fargo on 4th Avenue. She tells Zeke to get out of the car and wait for Cuddy to leave the bank. She then tells him that she'll be parked around the corner. So Zeke jumps out of the car and waits behind the bushes. 3 minutes later, Cuddy Banks walks outside, and that's when Zeke pops out of the bushes. This was a massive deal in the Bay Area. Cuddy Banks was extremely well liked and respected, especially in the Polynesian community. No one expected this to happen, especially at the stage that Cuddy was at in his life. His reception was held online and 86,000 people tuned in. That's nearly half the size of the whole country of Samoa. So yes, Cuddy Banks was a legend. Well, anytime you take a legend down, there will be hard feelings. Of course, Northern California's SOS community was not happy with Long Beach and Orange County Usos. And interestingly enough, over the next couple of years, multiple SOS members in Long Beach lost their lives. However, because I can't prove a correlation, I have to leave them out. Regardless, the street life in California is no joke, despite what the numbers say. In fact, San Jose has a couple big rivalries that I may cover down the line. April 20th, 2021. Isaiah Rupina is arrested in Oklahoma and Amanda Young is arrested in Long Beach. Right now, they're both in trial after pleading not guilty. This story is wild, and still to this day, nobody knows why she targeted Cuddy Banks. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Peace!